these.
That's right. Okay. Let's call ourselves to order. I don't have a timer to keep track of things, but Martha will note when the meeting started. And do we have business other than discussing the sign policy? Is there approval of minutes?
There's approval of the October 2nd minutes.
Should we do that in November?
We can
Or
pull
do it
that in
now?
November.
It's on the. Is it on the agenda for today?
I thought it was.
I think it is.
No?
Oh, no, it's not. Oh, yes, approval of October 2nd
Oh,
minutes.
okay.
Okay, so it's on the agenda. I can't think it's a matter of huge controversy, but you never know.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, I'll second it.
Deanie seconds. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. I'm saying for myself. None are opposed, and any abstentions? No. Okay, motion carries. I suppose we should, in the absence of Ed and Russ, authorize Tammy to.
I'm on the call.
Oh,
Okay, good. So Ed is present. I doubt we'll have any votes today. Well, we just had one, didn't we? So let's pretend we authorized Tammy.
That's right, 4.
Sorry, not enough coffee. Okay. Well, I think it's self-explanatory. I tried to simply incorporate what I believe we had agreed on last special meeting, and it kind of leaves us with the questions to talk about are in boldface, as well as reviewing the text. Just for us to think about, there's a lot to do. I don't think we have to be perfect. It's hard for me to say.
Yeah. Are you okay, John?
We're not adopting regulations. We're adopting policies, which I view to mean guidelines. We're not bound in stone by these.
That's a good point.
You know, not to say that we shouldn't be as careful as we can, but at some point we have to finish this. So, are there any questions about materials up until the top of page 2, which is the first boldface, which is a question I thought of as I was revising what we had done at the last meeting. Well, let's start at the top of page 2 then. And if anyone sees anything else on pages 1 or 2, we can obviously come back and fill in the gaps.
In reading it, I made a comment saying I felt that maybe it was a little conflicting, that your question that you asked was, I said maybe eliminate or explain if requested. Maybe, what did we say here? That is requested. Oh, instead of is required, I guess is what I suggested. We could just change that one word. Because then it wouldn't be in conflict with the paragraph above.
But I think my understanding of that paragraph is that John is addressing required traffic and directional signs, not signs that are requested by property owners.
Right.
I think it's okay.
I do too.
Oh, you do? Okay.
as is.
Okay?
I have a small word change for the first sentence, John. Strive to minimize the number of signs and limit their invasiveness instead of reduce.
This is on,
Top of the
Top of the
page.
page.
Yeah. It's not just wordsmithing, it's actually
Yeah.
meaning change.
strive to
Oh, on
minimize
the very top.
and limit their invasiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think back to the boldface, I put in the question, I guess I'm worried more about the readership. I don't really see a problem, if we approve any sign that's required under town ordinance, as opposed to a town regulation or policy. The only difficulty is probably theoretical. I mean, if planning or zoning got really upset with something that we were or were not doing and put forward an ordinance that was adopted by the town saying, these signs shall be erected in the historic district, what do we do? I mean, we still have a state statute that says we have the authority to reject signs.
I don't think we can eliminate every theoretical possibility, and that what we should do today is perhaps move through and do the important points that we can specify. I mean, I take your point, but I don't think that we can preclude that in these policy adoptions, and therefore I think it's okay the way it is.
Okay.
Or instead of saying is required, it could be is requested, because that would, or maybe that's not, but that would sort of soften.
Yeah, as requested is fine. I don't think it makes a huge difference.
Because required, because right above it says the authority cannot be altered, and then come down and says sign that is required. That, I agree with you, is a little conflicting.
I know, it's just, but if we say, we'll approve any sign that's
Anyway, it's theoretical is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a big deal. Just
not a big deal.
Not a big deal, yeah.
Let me, if I may, look at it before the penultimate thing, but it's probably fine.
Yeah.
But penultimate thing before the next draft. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think it's good, John. And we'll all have a chance once last time to go over it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's get the big new things done today as much as we can.
So,
I have one question. Okay, a sign under procedure.
yes.
A sign constructed or modified pursuant to a COFA that the HDC approved before the sign policy was adopted. What about signs that did not apply for a COFA? We're just going to ignore that, right? For people that put up a sign that didn't apply.
Well, I think
there are those.
I think I'm not sure I'm fully understanding.
Well, we say that a certificate, say, must be completed for which a sign constructed or modified pursuant to a COFA that the HDC approved before this sign policy was adopted complies with the requirements.
Right.
So what that's saying is we're saying that it applies,
It's okay.
even if they never applied. And if they did apply. My question is, what about people who put up a sign that didn't apply? Like at the...
who didn't apply? Well, I think that's covered in the first paragraph. Second sentence.
well-
A C of A is also required. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's to repair or replace
required
existing.
for a new sign.
Let's leave it. It's clear enough. Yeah.
But right, Dean, what's the case if that does happen, if there is,
That's what I mean.
if
But
there is a sign that's erected that prior to this, is that?
so
sign
I
able
can
to
only
stay?
think about this in terms of examples. It's really hard for me to
Right.
kind of comprehend it. So I think something like the inn, put such signs that they didn't apply for prior to any adoption. I mean,
Those are not grandfathered in if they didn't apply for them. Only the ones
That's
that
my
have...
question.
Yeah.
if they didn't apply
So you just
at
want to
all.
add some language to
Well, maybe
clarify
the
that.
way to do that is
Or is there,
a certificate of in the first paragraph, instead of a certificate of appropriateness is required for a new sign, just say is required for a sign.
for all signs, yeah.
Because,
John, is there
Yeah.
an effective date on this? That these
There will
policies
be.
will go into effect January 2024?
we can add that, or,
I think that does it, John, just take out new.
Okay.
and then if you don't have a C of A,
We request that you come forward.
absolutely,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
Good
Okay.
call, Dean.
Yeah, good catch. I see one ital I left in, at the very bottom of page 2. Signify, I guess I'm okay with it, but that was a new change last draft that I don't think we talked about,
Sure.
unless anyone has
Are
problems.
you talking about the italics or
Yeah.
the
The
choice?
italics at the very
I know,
bottom
but
of page 2.
why did you choose italics?
Last draft, my italics were my word changes from the previous
Oh, I
draft.
see.
And we talked about most
So
of
it shouldn't
them,
be italicized now.
unless anyone has problems and wants to talk about it.
Let's just remove the italics.
Yeah, yeah. And then before we get to the text, a point we had talked about at our
Always sit up and
August meeting is to change the order of sections, so the duration and removal of signs originally had been towards the end of the draft, and we moved those up. So, duration and removal of signs.
I made, again, some notes. For your question, should we include policies for holiday signs? My sort of knee-jerk was to say yes, but then after reading through all this, I thought that holiday would fall into the suggested regulations for time period for 30 days.
You'd hope so.
Right? I mean, it would sort of correct itself.
I don't think it should be mentioned at all.
That's what I mean. So sort of not
Right.
mention it, because if someone decided to leave up their flashing Santa lives here signs, until January 25th,
I think you can handle it in some other way. Is there some kind of clause in here that's saying if there is a particular sign that is not covered?
well, I think there is. That's what,
Okay.
when I went up, I can't come to it exactly
I
in a
wouldn't-
second, but
I wouldn't include policies for holiday signs.
I mean, just when you think about them, people don't put up signs that much. They put up lights, they put up
Skeletons.
skeletons,
Large
they put up,
skeletons.
reindeer with bobbing heads, and things like that. But they're not sort of,
Right.
I mean, I understand that's a structure, but it's,
I think that's great. Leave it out.
Yeah, I would leave it out.
But I think there is one question, maybe looking at it from the point of view of the reader, who's the property owner. For temporary signs, in most cases, a temporary sign may be installed for no more than 30 days. But what are the other cases? I find that to be, maybe somebody reading that wouldn't know whether they fell.
Well, I guess we could take that out, because these are policies. I was thinking of past years with Wee Ferry Village signs, which are temporary, but they go up a week before. They go up the last week of September. They come down in November, so that's over 30 days.
So do you want to say temporary sign may be installed for no more than 30 days unless permission is requested, or unless permission is granted, or do you just want to leave it?
which, are you looking at?
I mean, for temporary signs,
temporary signs.
the middle bullet.
Yep.
First, yeah.
I think it just opens up an uncertainty by including in most cases. I think just take it out.
Case where it wouldn't be.
all of them except Weeberry Village.
Right.
But I like her idea of taking out in most cases, excuse me, and just clarifying that if you're planning on more than 30 days, that has to be included.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could just take it out. I agree, it's clearer. And if it's more than 30 days, then it's a permanent sign. It just comes down early, I guess.
I mean, which
Where do the contractor signs fit in?
we're getting there.
We'll come
We're
to
coming
that.
to that.
And the wire sign.
But that's a good point. I mean, those are other relatively short-term signs that may well be up for more than 30 days.
Oh,
Should we
they're really up for more than 30 days.
Right, wire lawn signs specifically,
Yes.
because that's the most popular item that you're going to see residential
Yeah.
displays. And also for the nonprofits.
So let's just take out in most cases
Yeah.
and then move further.
Yep.
And 30, I think, is okay. That's, the best number we can come up with.
Mhm. That's
And
right,
what
in the
about
world.
happy hour? That was a question I asked myself.
What?
The happy hour sign that goes up. I mean, how do we address the happy hour sign at the inn?
Well,
But it's not there continuously.
No, it's up.
It goes up and
It
down
is,
and up
right,
and down,
so
so
that's-
it's not there
that's
for
a
more than
temporary
30
business,
consecutive
right.
days.
Okay.
and I think once my hope is once we get these policies set, we can circulate them, if not to everybody, at least to businesses, and then get Old Lyme Inn to talk about their signs and say, we know you need signs, but come on, let's talk about a nice wooden framework with replaceable.
I felt like that's something we could discuss under this coordinated sign program. I mean, I have some notes about that. You asked that question
Yes.
down here, because maybe that's something we would like to consider, is to invite, well, they're going to be nonprofits, to come in and talk about their signage needs. That's a coordinated sign program.
Well, yeah, if we're done with this, and I must say, looking at it, we had talked some about the text before, because I remember Carol and I think suggesting clearer demarcations of permanent signs and temporary signs. So the consensus I'm hearing on this section is take out any reference to holiday signs, take out those initial questions, take out in most cases under temporary signs, and 30 days is okay.
That's what
I think there should be some expansion on the temporary signs, because I believe that is the largest amount of signage that we see residentially here. So whether it's contractor, whether it's kindness matters, I know that there's no election, but those pop up, and I would think that those would clearly be mentioned, lawn wire signs.
Yes.
But there's a section under prohibited signs, isn't that where it is?
Yeah.
That I think we still have to have a discussion that would relate to that, whether we're going to allow them at all, and if so, for how long, and
All right.
how many. I mean, can you have architect, landscape designer, painter?
Right, okay.
Yeah,
So we'll come to that.
we will.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to that. So maybe we circle back to that time
Yeah.
limit. Yeah.
Okay. Style.
John, give an example of flags and banners that are purely decorative. A skeleton?
Flower.
Well, I'm thinking of, I think there were ones on the house that were up around the 4th of July that were sort of red, white, and blue half circles. I don't think I'm making
Those
that.
aren't,
Those are banners.
Colonial.
flag is not a banner if it's attached to the house, is it?
Why wouldn't it be? I mean,
I
what
thought
would
a banner was...
what would you call it?
freestanding.
Oh,
Or hanging, flag banner.
I do think most people think of a banner as something freestanding, not something
Okay.
draped
I mean, here's,
on the doorway.
I've seen, and these were not uncommon in Southern California, newer subdivisions, people have little flagpoles with just decorative signs. It's just color. It's probably a way in this field of cookie cutter houses. Ours is the one with the yellow turquoise bunny on it. Yeah.
But so far here, we don't have that. And so even if you had a banner that had a skeleton on it or a pumpkin on it, the message would still be Happy Halloween. It would still have a message.
Not necessarily in Southern California.
What? Not necessarily? Okay. I just...
But they're not here, so maybe that answers the question. At this point, we certainly don't need a separate section for banners and pennants and flags other than incorporating them here.
And at most, I think, if not all, of the banners and flags in the historic district do convey a message. It's the gay flag, the gay pride flag, or something like that.
Right. Okay.
I'm happy to get a C of A for my red, white, and blue banners.
Bunting.
Bunting.
Yeah, bunting. That's
Bunting. When some people do leave it up all summer, it's lovely, it's festive.
Right.
You know, in the house down there, they do.
Yeah, that's just my family tradition. We put it up for Memorial Day and we take it down Labor Day.
Yeah.
I love that. I think
Do you?
it's
I don't know why, but I don't love
Tammy's
it.
historic house, but just, you get like a little patriotic feeling, or I do anyways, looking at it, because her house is gorgeous to begin with, but decked out.
But I would be happy to get it
pretty.
Yeah, I would not be offended if I had to get a C of A to do it.
So I
It
think
doesn't
the question is
really
bunting a flag or a pennant? Yeah. I would think we don't want to try to regulate bunting.
Okay.
But what if the bunting is rainbow? I mean,
But we couldn't
no
regulate.
offense, but-
We couldn't regulate that either.
but it conveys a message.
I mean, some people would not find rainbow bunting lovely and attractive. Others people would.
I mean,
But you're saying something that is stuck in the ground, in the soil,
To me, that's a banner or a flag
that's
or a
like a
pennant.
sign. Right.
Yeah.
I guess my gut says let's leave it out, and if buntings start cropping up around town of all different varieties,
Messages.
then we think about it again.
I mean, one last point. I think
I don't think-
bunting could be construed, I think, as conveying a message.
It depends. I mean,
It's not just
color.
color. Yeah, it has a meaning.
Yeah.
And the meaning it has different people read it different ways as they would with the gay pride flag, or if there were to be such a thing as gay pride bunting. So I don't know what we do with that. I don't think it's message free, but I don't know that we want to get involved.
Okay.
Do you think so?
I agree.
I'm sorry, Deb.
I would agree.
you
I
agree.
think that should be one of the things that should be left alone.
Okay.
Because it is affixed to her house,
Yeah.
as opposed to
Yes.
a flag in the ground.
Right.
That's where I would draw the line.
Well,
And if people were to have bunting that conveyed some other message than red, white, and blue, would you be okay with that?
I guess if it's affixed to their house,
well, I mean, some of these other banners can be affixed to houses, strung between two pillars.
Right.
And they are
Flags
all
can
the
be-
time.
right?
But-
Yeah,
but
like the
note-
banners at
The church.
and at the inn. I mean, they're affixed to
Yeah,
their
the
fence.
fence.
So why don't they just affixed it to the building? I mean,
Yeah. I think it's tricky, but I don't know.
I'm happy to
We
get a
certainly
CFA.
don't want, look, I mean, we put up just because my family always had, we put up a flag for Memorial Day, for 4th of July.
Yeah.
We don't keep it up
I'm
in
like
between,
you.
but we don't want, I mean, the idea that
Except for
people
Labor
would
Day.
have to come into this historic district commission before they put up a
Flag.
No, we can't do that.
No,
And we can't
definitely not.
distinguish between an American flag and a pride flag, or an American flag and a Palestinian flag.
Yeah.
Or right now, the Mergis have the Israeli flag together. I mean, we can't, I think we can't,
Can't touch that.
Okay.
that's very tricky.
It is tricky. It's really tricky.
And we can't say no at all.
Yeah,
because-
exactly. Seriously, what if someone comes in and says, I want gay pride bunting? What do you, I mean,
Right.
We face, just because it's sort of interesting, we face this in the new rules and regulations for the Duck River Cemetery. What kinds of flags and pennants can people place on their graves? And we decided only the American flag and the fire department flag, which is grandfathered in, because there are lots of fire department flags, but no other pennants, no other banners. So that's tricky, because what if somebody wants a little gay pride pennant, but then you get into all kind, and then you get into this clutter. And
So no U.S. Marines, or sometimes they have those?
Yes, we debated trying to limit the number of American flags, because some graves, put them all over. I mean, nothing against the flag. I'm talking about the decorative.
Yeah.
Right,
I'm not
and the
talking
amount
about
that's there and the visual.
Yeah, the visual. So we decided not to limit the number of American flags, but to not allow any other flags except the grandfathered in and the American flag.
I mean,
I
you
don't-
have to draw a line somewhere.
You do.
And it's easier to draw it over here than to start picking
It
and
is.
choosing what you're going to let in.
I know, and especially now with, the Ukrainian flag you do see in some people's houses.
Yeah.
I've seen it in Old Lyme.
So if you guys want to put in the bunting, I'm happy to get it.
Yeah, it's very tricky. So, okay,
I'm
so,
hearing the consensus that we just take out the second boldface point. At this point, we don't want a distinct policy on
yes.
Yeah, I think so.
non-sign banners and flags or buntings.
I think we set ourselves up for ridicule.
An attack.
Yeah.
Should we say explicitly that banners, pennants, and flags may serve as flags, as signs?
That's a tough one, John. It's a good question, but it's tough. Because then your second question also applies.
Well, if you say they may serve as signs, or you could say banners, pennants, and flags that serve as signs require a C of A.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Are those long-term usage? Or
temporary.
does that fall
That's
into the
part of it.
30-day?
Well, it depends.
Could be either way. I mean, it could be either way.
So would you say that banners, pennants, and flags, whether temporary or permanent, require a C of A?
Well, banners, pennants, and flags that serve as signs.
But then you have to define what that means.
What if you have a Frosty the Snowman? That's not really a sign. It's not saying anything other than winter.
Yeah, I think people would say, oh, I've got a banner with reindeer across it. That's not a sign.
Right.
What about I'm not trying to be controversial here, but what about this little sign that sometimes I've seen in the old Ebert house next to the Lime Academy of the Uncle Sam, with the
Oh,
the
right.
little cutout
Right, that's
figure.
right.
There's also one on Academy Lane, but there is one in the historic district much of the time, and it stays up. That's conveying a message. It certainly, certainly has a message. It's not affixed to the house like bunting. What do we do about that? Ignore it?
That's what I was thinking of before, that sign.
Yeah.
That flag.
Well, it comes up because zoning refers at least to signs that are attached to houses or in windows. And so, if a sign is inside a window, is it exterior? I would think we would have authority over it, technically.
If it's
If
inside?
it's visible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it's visible.
From the street?
So if you wanted to put a political sign inside your window?
If it's visible from the street.
Street, right. Okay.
Wow. We're
Okay.
in tricky territory here.
You really are.
Well, one thing we could do
I think
is
we don't
not
want to
mention-
provoke people to try and
Yeah.
sort of slip through and get by with,
Yeah.
if we make them too
Rigid.
detailed, then it looks as if, I'm gonna,
Yeah,
I can.
Stay away.
Mm-hmm.
Stay away completely
We don't
from
want to have a
banners,
bad
pennants, and
reputation.
flags.
I think we already somehow do.
I know, it's true.
Well, I don't know the answer.
Where is the standing, right up here?
Freestanding?
Yeah, what does it say currently about that? Before you ask your question, what is it
I mean, these questions are mostly about things that aren't in there now.
Right, right. So it doesn't address it now.
So I can only do the specific. So if there's questions for this section, it could say banners, pennants, and flags that serve as signs, whether temporary or permanent, require a C of A. Do we or don't we want to say that?
Okay, but that would mean that if I want to put up an American flag on Labor Day or on Memorial Day, I have to get a C of A for that?
Well, it depends whether it's a sign. I mean, it's not hypothetical, because if we put it in, somebody's going to call up Martha and saying, I want to put up a flag. Is that a sign?
Right.
No, we can't do that. I think
Right.
we need to look at exactly what are you trying to gain control or eliminate. You're trying to get rid of those long pendant things.
Feather signs.
That are typically in front of the businesses or the nonprofits. I think that should be a little bit more honed in, because the residents are really, you can't start to really regulate those things, because that's just outrageous. You shouldn't have to do anything if you own your home here other than keep it nice and follow the regulations. But I think if you know specifically what we're trying to get control or the time limit on, I think you really need to be very specific that it's for the nonprofits and for the businesses.
Zoning exempts flags, pennants, or insignias which are the symbol of any governmental unit or nonprofit organization, or which are displayed for a strictly non-commercial purpose. That's zoning. Unfortunately, perhaps, and this is me being hyper-literal, but we have a statute that says we have to give C of A's for structures. And signs are a special case for non-structure signs that are advertising signs, but the legal definition of advertising is broad enough to encompass the expression of ideas, not just commercial advertising.
Yes.
We have to. I mean, that's what the state statute says.
Yes.
So if it's not a sign, fine. But if it is a sign, it's like the state statute saying, you're responsible. Now, at a certain point, I'm jumping ahead to another issue, it becomes ridiculous. We give somebody a historic plaque. Do we have to give a C of A? Do we have to have a hearing for that? Businesses that have these little things in their windows saying, we accept MasterCard. That's a sign.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, it's just like we get laughed out of town.
We would.
We did approve the RTP Center's plaque attached to its wall commemorating Eleanor Robinson. I mean, we did do that. We approved a C of A for that, remember?
I do.
Yeah, I do.
And
so I proposed one wording. Everybody thinks that's too extreme. I agree. The other extreme would be to leave it out completely. And the third would be to find a middle road between what I said about flags, banners that serve as signs require a C of A. So do we want to struggle now for a middle ground, or do we want to leave it out? We've ruled out the first idea, so we have only three choices. Do we want to struggle with the wording, a middle ground, or do we want to just forget it, omit it?
what would a middle ground be?
Clarifying what is a sign? I don't know.
Well, a sign is...
Do we want to put in a parenthesis of exceptions? Include national flags? I don't know.
Let me suggest we not delete this, but skip over it for now.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's come back to it.
Choose stage will, some time for reflection will help.
Come back to. So let's move on to the professionally lettered question.
I want to make a comment because this is a first reference to freestanding signs. In the current Historic District Handbook, they talk about freestanding signs, but the only examples are the big post and rectangle,
Right.
like you see at Wickford, at Florence Griswold, etc. Well, technically, a freestanding sign is any sign that's not attached to a building.
Yes.
So you can have little freestanding signs. A wire sign is a freestanding sign.
Correct.
So just as we start going through that, let's keep that in mind. If we say freestanding signs must be professionally lettered, we're saying that's true technically of even the little freestanding signs, not just the big
Like an
posts.
address, like the
Pillar.
nice little metal signs that sometimes people put out on their pathway.
But wouldn't
Say,
that
"This is
still
number
cover
21."
the kindness matters sign, or,
Yeah.
because that's professionally
But
printed?
It's professionally printed. Is it professionally lettered?
Yeah.
Do
We're
we
not
want to
there
get
yet.
into that?
But that's further along.
Or is that for the first?
That's further.
You can draw distinctions between professionally lettered. You could say not handwritten,
I mean, I think that,
because something that's printed, I wouldn't say is professionally lettered. It's just printed.
but what if, say, Homeward, this is, I think, a good example, had a sale, and they put out a nice little, like the wooden signs, like that are at Long River, and put that out and said, "Sale today," on chalk. I don't find that objectionable.
No.
And the same applies to
I mean, it's almost better than having,
Right, because it's natural.
you know, almost better than having a
professional.
printed. Because we don't have a lot of those situations. I mean, we have the church, which to me has the blood drive and has musical white elephant. The white elephant sign is kind of, as I recall, it looks like it's hand painted to me. It's sort of vintage.
Right, it
It
is.
has a lot of charm. In that they've been
Right.
using it for, it looks like, 40 years. Yeah.
What sign are you?
The white elephant sign that
Oh,
they
right.
put. And it looks to me as if it was hand painted by somebody, and it's charming. And it's probably been used for 40 years.
What size is that?
Like a sandwich board.
It's a big kind of sign. And it's intake, they put that up for a while, the intake days, and they changed the dates, and then White Elephant Sale, right? Yeah. So,
Well,
So this question
No,
of
we have
professionally done.
limited. Signs larger than a certain size must be professionally lettered. Signs that contain the name of a business must be professionally lettered.
What's a good
per
example of
institution.
something that we would not want?
Well, you would not want a nonprofit to just slap up a sign that's scrawled on.
Right.
Home of
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are gradations. People could,
Temporary
Yeah.
signs could be hand lettered. Or,
do you know, Martha, what this coordinated sign program is that's in the current historic district handbook? It says coordinated sign program such as the one at the Florence Griswold Museum.
Imagine
Is that the...
They have a group of.
internal,
So on the
Wayfair.
roadway, they've got the tall sign that says Florence Griswold Museum, and then they've got the short sign that now says Cafe Flow is open and Wood Ferry Village is open. Okay. I'm not sure we want to continue to refer to a coordinated sign program unless we flesh out what the program is.
Yeah. Although I do think, and I said this a few minutes ago, I do think for some of these institutions, really, the church being one, the academy, that want to do multiple signs, that it would be well worth everyone's effort to come in and talk to us and say, okay, you think you need more than one sign. What are you thinking of? And sort of try and agree agree rather than sticking to a specific regulation. You can only have one sign. If they say, but we think we need another sign over here, and we could say, okay, but it should be lower.
Right. Or like St. Anne's has multiple little signs saying parking here, office here, tree over here. I mean, there's many
signs, and that I think was not regular.
Exactly. It's not well thought out.
So the idea of having that in our,
I think that's a very good idea.
In our literature.
Right, so you have multiple signs within the property.
And this would apply to nonprofits and any business too.
Right.
So that we don't sound as if we're trying to cooperate with needs, but also trying to respect the charm and character of the historic district.
So we could just add a bullet point under the first Roman text. Sign should promote a unifying theme. You could just say, and I don't have the wording, needs wordsmithing, but the style of multiple signs or groups of signs must be coordinated. Something to that effect.
Must be coordinated with the HDC.
Well,
or that's obvious, but
I think that's obvious.
Yeah.
Are you down there now, John?
Well, I'm just saying if I was just picking up on the question about coordinated sign program, and
but we haven't decided about professionally lettered.
But we haven't gotten off professionally lettered yet.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly, if we do have multiple signs, I think part of coordination could be, well, you got the big sign announcing the name of the nonprofit. Your other signs have to kind of match that in terms of the
I think it's
lettering.
fair to say they need to be professionally lettered, because the only situation where we're thinking that we might not want that are really on temporary signs, right? I mean, something like the sale.
Well, then we can just say permanent signs must be professionally lettered.
Yeah, right. I mean, because that in some ways should be obvious, but that's the way you can put it.
Well, because permanent just means anything over 30 days, so.
Yes.
How does that fit?
Permanent signs must be professionally lettered. Sounds fine.
Yeah. 30 days is plenty of time to.
And then the temporary signs we're going to address further down in the document.
Okay.
Right? How does that fit with you, John?
It's fine. Okay, so I think except for the banners, pennants, and flags, which we'll set aside for now, haven't we answered all these questions? When we get down to the non-bold-faced text, the first indented bullet point would read, permanent signs must be professionally lettered. And then we'll add a bullet point that says something like the style of multiple signs or groups of signs on a property must be coordinated. Or some such.
And also subject to COFA.
Yeah, but if we're not granting it, we can't grant approval in here. If somebody wants to have a whole set of signs approved at once. They need to come in if they want to
Right.
bring in one new sign to an existing group of signs. They have to come in.
Right.
They got to come in for signs. It's just
Right.
our
So you
policy
think it's
that,
obvious. Right.
to remind us and readers, oh, well, you can't have a sign with Gothic lettering, a group of signs with Gothic lettering, and then bring in a sign that's
Sort of Asian and, right, yeah, okay.
So I got a little lost. So I thought, so is there going to be a separate sentence prior to I'm down at the bottom of the page.
Yes.
Signs should promote a unifying theme. Prior to that sentence, is there going to be a sentence that says permanent signs must be professionally lettered? Because if so,
I would keep that at the very last line on
Okay.
page 3 and just insert the
Got it.
word permanent. And then I would also add a new bullet point that says something to the effect of, in particular, the style of multiple signs or groups of signs on a property must be coordinated.
I don't think we need that.
Well, I don't know. LACFA came in with a bunch of signs. They were all coordinated. I'm not sure that every business or non-profit will take that view. Oh, we need a new sign. People keep asking us about our hours of operation, so we need a new sign for hours of operation. And
Okay.
they may be inclined just to slap up a sign rather than...
I suggest then a separate sentence. And I suggest that because different styles of architecture to me raises questions. So what about signs should promote a unifying theme within the historic district and complement the district's historic aspects and architectural styles.
Okay.
Signs within a single property must be coordinated, or some such sentence, but a separate freestanding short sentence.
That's fine.
Yes, because you could see a sign being requested for storyboards and signs, yes.
So should it say signs on a particular property must be coordinated in style, must be stylistically similar?
Why not just the style of signs?
Styles within a
Yeah.
Be related.
Within,
must be stylistically consistent?
yeah, signs within a particular property must be stylistically consistent.
And I don't know where here it would say this, but, and I don't know how you all think about this, but I think it's successful when some of these places have one sign and then add banners to it, so that it's just one structure.
In the ground, right, and they've added
Like at the art
right.
association.
Yeah.
And that's what, we've had a discussion about that a long time ago, about maybe at the Old Lyme Inn, that would be something they could do, where they could put a brunch Sunday or happy hour. They could do it within their existing sign rather than a smattering.
Their existing sign, as I recall, actually does have a couple of strips below it now.
It does.
The problem now is there's not enough room
It's too low.
to add.
It's too low. But I mean, in terms of sign designs, I'm not saying that you have to, should make them do that. But that's maybe when we give an example, or maybe we take a picture when we do the handbook or something, where it would show that this is a good way of indicating different things happening,
Right.
without a clutter
Of signs,
of
right.
signs. So, for example, the Roger Tory Peterson could. I mean, they've never replaced their posts.
Right.
But when they had that up a little more, they could put something below it to say, summer camp opens June 15th, or something,
Mhm.
rather than,
Signs here.
Signage around, right, saying the same thing.
which is what
Yeah,
we're striving to do at the end of the exit ramp.
And
ultimately.
frankly, if there's not a good example in town, just take a picture from another town.
Mhm. It's really set from, I mean, I noticed, and you asked 2 summers ago maybe to take photos traveling around, and I did that in Litchfield actually. And you come into Litchfield, there's not big pretty screens, there's not one wire sign. You know that that's prohibited because it's the most perfect place, would be,
Right.
to advertise everything, and it's not one wire sign there.
Yeah.
And so, anyway,
Okay.
digress.
Carolyn, I like that language. I think I've got it. Let me put it in the next draft. And so top of page, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. So then the little bullet, the last bullet on page 3 would be permanent signs must be professionally lettered.
Mhm.
And so that means temporary signs, happy hour today, don't have to be permanently lettered. And do we have any rule about affixing it, tying a sign to a fence?
Yes, it's prohibited by zoning,
Oh, okay.
yeah. And that's been actually, I think, Eric,
And I think
Good. Great.
that's under prohibitions.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
Um,
So now we're on page 4, freestanding signs.
And maybe this captures it, if you have directory information, or if you have the name of
What
the
does
business or,
information mean?
well, it's like when you drive into Florence Griswold or LACFA and they say, shop this way, administration this
barn
way.
this way,
Coffee this way.
yeah.
Good.
My only thought is successful examples of freestanding signs, maybe we should repeat freestanding signs announcing the name of a business or organization.
Sure, because that's who we're aiming it towards.
I mean, I don't want someone to take that literally and say, oh, Old Lyme Inn has freestanding wire signs. So those are successful examples.
So we're happy with the first bullet, no questions about that, moving through that, okay. On page 4.
So what I'm proposing is in the out to the left margin, line that begins successful examples of freestanding signs announcing the name of a business or organization.
And it,
Include those at.
yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Material? We ready for material?
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, as written, this does away with sandwich board signs because they're always plastic or vinyl,
Always.
except for
That wouldn't-
Long River, But
And plastic or vinyl would include probably a plastic snowman or a turkey.
well, they're not signs, but
They're not signs.
but
They're not signs. Yeah.
What is the material of these side signs that they have at LACFA and Lyme Art Academy that are flapping the breeze?
Right, I'm not sure if they're like a canvas.
Oh, you mean the banners on the
Yeah.
on the light posts? I think they're sort of a synthetic material, aren't they? They're sort of
Say
sort of
that
like a
you want canvas or something like that, but I don't.
canvas, and no one's going to use canvas,
Right.
But
So you have to be able to say the side banners are acceptable.
I mean, I don't think we're going to succeed. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I just, you know, the range of temporary signs that apply to properties for sale, that apply to contractors, that apply to White Elephant sale, that apply to, you know, concert tonight. People have those signs. Are we going to ban them in the future because they're not
Right, I think we can.
wood like synthetic material or sturdy metal?
I think we can. I mean, that's what they make signs
Then we
out
can
of.
just say those solid wood, et cetera, is encouraged.
And are these, do we specify for permanent as opposed to temporary signs or not?
For which item?
For example, plastic or vinyl is not permitted for permanent signs. But we do allow, I mean, what are those sandwich boards? Those are vinyl.
Those are
Those
plastic,
are
yeah.
Plastic?
Sure.
Yeah.
So those are temporary. I don't know, but perhaps we,
Need to differentiate that.
yeah.
Yeah, for permanent signs.
Well, one thing you might consider is that when people come in for fences and things and other things like that, you have said in the past it should be wood or wood-like in appearance.
Yes.
And our plaques are synthetic. The historic plaques are synthetic.
But they're not vinyl and they're not
No, but
plastic.
They're wood-like.
Well, it says in here already.
They're wood-like, so they
Yeah.
fit into that.
say wood or wood-like in appearance.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
I
what it
mean,
says now?
we do have, under the first item,
Yeah.
we're encouraging wood-like synthetic material or sturdy metal.
I mean, I've seen wooden sandwich boards.
They do.
That are hand-lettered,
Yeah, it's,
like a chalkboard.
yeah. it's
Like
a
the ones at
chalkboard.
Long River.
I don't know what Long River is, but I've seen sandwich boards where it's chalkboard, but the frame of it
Yeah.
is wooden.
Yeah.
And they take it in and out every day.
Long River's the one just as you're driving down Halls Road, just
The
past
coffee
the-
shop.
Oh.
And they have a whole bunch of those out.
Okay.
Soup today and coffee. and-
Are they wooden?
Yes.
Yeah.
With a chalkboard, and they're sort of charming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're in and out.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, I think if you're wanting to use a sandwich board, you can get a wooden one.
Yeah, I mean, the
So
wood,
where are we?
yeah.
Plastic or vinyl is not permitted for permanent signs, or just leave it is not permitted?
We could say it's not encouraged. I mean, supposedly, again, people are coming in for permission, and that's what the state statute says, that's what Attorney Carey says. You don't get to give blanket okay and say anything you want to put up for 2 days is we're not going to regulate. I mean, people will do it anyway, but we can't say that. So our vision, or my vision, is I put in a line under temporary signs that says the HDC, this is back on page 3, may authorize temporary signs for similar recurring events or announcements by approving one initial CMA application. So if the church comes in and you say, okay, you got blood drive, you got concerts, whatever, let's agree on the style, size, location where you're going to put these things.
Yeah.
And that's the opportunity to talk to them about the material that would be included.
But we still have to specify one way or another. I mean, in addition to the fact that we would talk to them, this sentence needs to be either clarified or not clarified.
Right.
I'm recommending we say plastic vinyl is not permitted for permanent signs. So you can
Well,
explain why you prefer not to have that.
But do you think that indicates that it is permitted for for temporary signage?
Yes, because we do allow
Yeah.
temporary sandwich boards which are plastic.
well, you could deal with it by saying, in the first item, solid wood, wood-like synthetic material or sturdy metal is required for permanent signs and encouraged for all
Yeah.
signs.
That's
And then leave
Yeah,
out,
that's
and then
nice.
leave out the
Yeah.
second
That's great.
item
That's-
altogether.
Yes.
Good wording.
Yeah, because again, if someone's taking the time to come in here for approval, they would probably
And
be open
encouraged.
to.
For all signs.
Yeah.
Or for encourage,
Plastic or vinyl.
yeah,
Yeah, good, that's good.
That's great.
encourage
And it sounds
for,
friendly.
should I just say for all, encourage for all signs or encourage for temporary signs?
No, solid
Not the
wood,
way-
wood-like synthetic material, sturdy metal is required for permanent signs.
And encouraged
And
for all.
encouraged for,
Leave it
Why
out.
not say all?
I would leave it out.
Oh, you mean leave out all signs?
Because I don't think anybody's going to want to change their, do we really care if it's plastic sandwich board or?
well, I would be a lot happier if the old Lime Inn had its wooden
Yes, that's what I said.
Long River type signs rather than.
I think it makes a difference aesthetically.
I do too.
I have to,
So, and encourage for temporary signs?
Or all signs?
Which one?
Well, I would say for temporary, because you're covering temporary and.
Because we've already said permanent. Required for permanent and encouraged for
For
temporary.
temporary, yeah.
Okay.
At least we'll have that in, and we can revisit it on the next or
Fine.
last draft. Okay. The last item under material, the last bullet point, I think is something we should keep in mind generally. We may have talked about it, but we can't specify paint colors. That's in the state statute. I see nothing that says that we are precluded from requiring signs that cannot be painted, period, or structures. So, for example, with a signpost, we could say it's got to be. I mean, some things are constructed with colors in them rather than painted. They're made of brown wood-like material.
The fence, I mean, the sign, the post?
Well, what I was trying to get at, and maybe it's too much packed into that clause, if the HDC approves a painted sign, the negative implication of that is we don't have to approve a painted sign. We could say this sign that you're proposing may not be painted.
We just leave out a painted. If the HDC approves a sign, it has no authority to specify paint colors.
Except that sort of, to me, implicitly reads, okay, they've approved a sign, but they have no say over colors, so I can
Paint it
paint.
yellow.
John, I
Paint any-
recommend changing the structure of this third bullet to be consistent with the second bullet.
Okay,
And not have all of a sudden a complete sentence with clauses
right.
and with negative, suggestions. I think we can leave that out and say something like, let me just try this. Paint colors compatible with other colors in the historic district are encouraged. Not, yeah. I think keeping it positive. I'm not sure I have the right
You
wording.
don't have to tell them that we can't
Yeah.
specify paint colors.
Yeah.
Because then they might think.
Yeah, you don't have to share everything.
Yeah, exactly. Paint colors compatible with other colors in the historic district. What do you mean by other colors in the historic district? Do you mean buildings,
Just
other
with the
signs? I
historic.
mean, it's a little vague, but I don't object to it, but it's a little vague. If I were thinking, now what does that mean? What should my
Historic colors.
palette range
Right.
be? That wouldn't be quite clear, but
Well,
Say with the character?
we do say earlier,
so I just think you could start with the use of paint colors compatible with other colors in the historic district is encouraged. That's a nice, I think, positive tone.
Yes, the word encouraged is,
yeah, to me, it's implicitly inviting painting. Does anyone recall, did we somewhere else in here put in that we don't have authority over paint colors?
For permanent signs. Signage paint colors.
There is something in the handbook under conception. It says paint colors.
Referring to.
Yeah, but I don't think I put it in.
No, it's just a general.
At the beginning, there's a section for the HDC lacks authority over. And I didn't put anything in about paint color.
What page are you on?
On page 1, right before principles, the HDC lacks authority. I mean, we could add paint colors there, if you want. I guess I had saved it for material just because it's a type of material.
I don't know if personally, I would leave it out of lacks authority. I just don't want to encourage. I don't think you need to encourage. So I would leave it out of lacks authority, and then on the color of material, the third bullet on page 4, just simply add the encourages use of paint colors that are in keeping with the character of the historic district.
You think about the ice cream shop and its colors.
compatible with the character.
Yeah, keeping.
Oh, well, this is consistent with it.
Right.
So I don't think we need to advertise that we don't have.
Right. I do.
And just encourage.
I agree.
Keeping with the character.
Okay, so what was your language, Carolyn, for
My
next
language
draft?
was signage paint colors compatible with other colors in the historic district are encouraged. But then what jumps in my mind is the ice cream shop and its colors in the historic district, which we don't want to encourage because they're inconsistent.
Well, that hasn't been.
Yeah, that's going to be all new.
It was never approved,
Well,
and it's not a
Because you
sign.
couldn't approve
You
it.
can't not. You don't have
We
any
didn't have a
jurisdiction
sign
over it.
colors. Right, we're just putting a plug in.
Well,
We're thinking
I would
about
say
it.
could you say with the general character?
Yeah.
Because that's
With
Yeah,
the character.
that's what
that is not part of the general character.
No.
The historic character.
With other prevailing colors?
Or the general historic.
Right, maybe the prevailing colors.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Good catch, whoever did that.
Recurrent colors? I don't know.
I like prevailing.
Let's come back to that, John. We're getting stuck.
I mean, again, we can get something down and come back to it. Okay, location. How are we doing on time, by the way?
It is
Yeah,
10:15.
shortly.
10:16? Okay.
Okay. So signs on awnings, do you mean, when you ask that question, do you mean a printed sign on a printed awning like Old Lyme, Democrats or Old Lyme Republicans, or, is that what you mean?
I'm not sure I was that specific. I guess what I had in mind was you unroll an awning and there's this big lettering on
On the top.
of it.
Yeah.
that.
I think those should not be permitted.
Slanted down, but
Sometimes people put something on the apron of it.
Yeah, isn't that what River Tavern does?
The thing on the top, I think, is glaring and is
Yeah,
bad.
that's way too.
But the little embroidery along the apron is traditional. People do that. Shops do that. Well, we can say we don't want that, but
No,
I just wanted to know what you meant, what your question was.
But some people undo the awning and then they may have like a hanging placard on it.
Banner.
well, why don't we just say signs on top of awnings are prohibited?
Okay.
If there's writing on the awning, like the deli, where there used to be, I think, a Dunkin' Donuts, they had a sign on the awning, and then they had another sign, and it was considered redundant, too many signs. Is that something you're addressing with awnings?
Maybe we just say no writing on awnings. Can we?
Yeah, if something's
No printing
Yeah.
on awnings.
No printing on.
in front, like on the
Yeah. the
lapel,
apron,
are those printed on the awnings, or are they just like attached to it?
yeah. Usually it's printed.
Printed, yeah.
Okay, so the question with awnings is, do we just say nothing on awnings, or do we say no signs on top of awnings?
I mean, this is just being ridiculous, but like what if the apron on the awning is, like what if the awning is up high
Right, and it's a long apron.
and then the apron is
Deep
like
apron.
2 feet? I mean,
Right. Well,
Is there an example of,
I just can't think of an example of an awning in the district.
something in Sag
I
Harbor?
mean, you still have, if you have a sign, you've got to have it approved by the HDC. We're just trying to provide notice about stuff that's never permitted in the list of prohibitions. We don't approve signs attached to fences or trees or utility poles.
I think we should leave, I think we should not have printed awnings. I think that just keeps it all cleaner.
Right.
We don't have many awnings to begin with, so it's not as if this is a huge prohibition.
and it really, frankly, even the cute ones don't really go with the historic district.
Right.
I mean,
And
Homework.
final point, again, these
Yeah,
are
it's not a
principles.
shopping street,
If somebody comes in with a convincing case, then
Black and white stripe one.
We could, but without it wouldn't say anything.
Right.
no, yeah, I mean for signage.
Yeah.
Like I don't just, like even the apron one, I don't see it.
I think it's unusual enough within our historic district that
Yeah.
you don't have to. Yeah.
I think have we addressed the initial sentence in this section?
no.
I think we need to address that in addition to the specifics.
The location, I mean the sentence beginning with the location. Mhm. Well, right. I mean, that's the question of.
First of all, I'd like to make it positive rather than negative, if we can.
Well, you could just say must be compatible.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. So it must
But
not.
what does that actually mean? If I'm thinking, gee, I want to comply by everything, what makes the location of my sign compatible with historic aspects of buildings? I don't understand.
You can't block them, for example.
To me, it's vague.
We
Relate?
it may be
Must relate
that
to, or-
this is so general that it's not necessary. Just leave out that sentence. And then
Well, if what we're trying
and we're not leading with anything positive, but we are providing some clarification by indicating what locations are not permitted.
What if it said the location of a sign must relate to the historic and architectural building in the vicinity of the sign?
Let's just take the witness stone sign.
Right.
It doesn't relate to anything
It doesn't.
nearby.
No.
I
It
don't
also
think
would,
it's specifically incompatible with the historic aspects of buildings, but it's just a simple black frame, black post.
but that's such an
We're
exception.
just talking about locations here.
Yeah, that location of that sign is not related to any
Right.
building.
But it had to go somewhere.
Yeah,
So, and are there stones right by it?
there's one.
Okay, so it's related to that.
What's the harm of leaving out that sentence?
I think maybe leaving it out is okay.
Yeah.
Does it add anything?
I think it sets up all of the signs attached to the prohibited signs.
And what it calls into question is the location of the Lafayette sign, obviously.
Well,
I know you did. I know you did. Sorry about that. All right,
I mean,
so
is your reason, is it a sufficient reason to have some sentence leading this section
something.
other than you can't do this?
Right.
I mean, if we take out the first sentence, we're leading with a
Prohibition.
negative.
How about the location of the sign should relate to the historic? I don't know. I'm
Right,
stuck on the
exactly.
word
That should
relate,
be-
but
I
yeah.
mean, the case in point is the signs that are at the end of, or at the top of McCurdy Road that are not exactly where they should be in relation to,
Oh, you mean Ludington? and-
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
that's what I pull up first. That's my first thought. But then it is very important of the signs attached to fences, trees. I didn't realize that you couldn't put something on a tree in this district.
Well, that was
That was an
that
early
comes
on.
from zoning, and it came up with the ice cream shop.
There is one at the moment at the church, but I think they'll take it down. Okay. Well, I like the idea of having some sentence in
I
there.
do
Right.
too,
Yeah,
but I
I
don't
mean,
know
I
what,
think we need to lead in.
what are we trying to say?
I don't
trying
know
to be
that we're trying to say
encouraging.
It should
anything
be in the
beyond.
vicinity of what it's talking about.
The
So-
heading is location.
Right, right. So those two signs at the top of McCurdy Road are all you need. Those are the examples. That you want a sign to be relatively close to what it is the signage is about. That's what I'm interpreting it as.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we're trying to say. Yeah.
So I like Deanie's word relate. Can we use that? The location of a sign must relate to,
Or should relate. Softer than must, or say must. I mean.
Yeah, it must with relate seems strong to me, because
Yeah.
somebody, a future commission could say, well, we've got a policy that says that sign you're proposing must relate to historic and architectural aspects. Once you're showing that it relates to historical, and with witness stones, it's got to go somewhere. It doesn't really relate to historical
That's
or
a big
aspects
exception.
of
You're talking
other
about the
structures.
actual historic stones or the
The witness does.
I mean,
The
the
sign.
Just the sign
at the
for
library, it's sort of indicating the
Inception, right.
program or the location. That's a big exception.
It's a big exception, but it's at the library.
I know.
It's the place of information.
Right.
where it
Right.
would.
Good
So
point.
You could argue that it's related, it's relevant to the
What
library.
about the storyboard signs?
Right.
There's another perhaps exception. The storyboard signs don't relate to the historic or architectural aspects of that building. They don't.
They don't. There may be one.
A little far-reaching.
They
It's an
don't.
educational institution. I suppose that.
Might be another exception.
So there are two.
But see, now we're talking about the content of the sign.
No, even the structure of the sign. There's nothing structurally about those signs that relates
Right.
To the building.
I see, I
to the
see.
historic building.
They're not historic signs.
Yeah, my point, I was going back to location, yeah.
Right.
And then you have the kind of curly Q Lafayette sign that maybe looks more historic, but do we prefer that? I don't know. Not necessarily.
Those are kind of all over, too.
What about Deanie's sign on her rock,
What about my sign?
which I like? I mean, I'm not criticizing your sign.
I didn't put it up.
I'm just trying to be consistent, you know.
Okay, are we talking about location or material?
Location, relevance to
Yeah.
the structure.
Well, under material, we start with sign material should be in keeping with the historic and architectural aspects of the historic district. Why not just have a
Continue.
parallel thing? The location of
Should.
signs should be in keeping with,
Vague, but it's a sentence.
So let's try to keep it parallel. Sign material should be in keeping. So let's say sign should be, and then I don't know what we say, but I think parallel is good.
Could you say like,
or should, you could say, sorry,
just should be related to
should relate
the
to.
structure and not impede the historic nature of the property, or, because you don't want, like, I'm just thinking, you don't want to, like, what are you trying to not have happen? Like,
Right.
you don't want a sign, like, stuck in the middle of a yard of a property, so you just don't want it to impede into the historic, the visible historic nature of the property of some sort.
Well, yeah, but we also want it to connect to the actual function
Structure.
of the building.
Yeah.
Structure, yeah.
Yeah, so you want it to relate and not to detract from the historic
But you're
character.
setting up a list of things that are not permitted. This sentence precedes a list of things that are not permitted. So signs attached to fences, etc. So
Well, that could be divided into
sign,
two.
would sign placement help us get as location the thing we're struggling with?
Oh,
I mean, replace
Um,
location with placement?
I don't think that gets us.
I don't think it
really.
matters. I
No,
agree.
I don't-
I kind of prefer location.
would it be too confusing if you kept location as the title and then in the first sentence have the placement of a sign, like where it should and should not be, and then,
What about if we get rid of it and just say certain sign locations are not permitted in the historic district? Or specific sign location, but I was thinking specific.
Unless I'm really struggling with what we say in a positive way that's meaningful.
Yeah, me too, John. Exactly right.
I mean, this has meaning to me.
which one?
I mean, the location of a sign should relate, or should, whatever word anyone wants to use, locate the historic and architectural aspects of buildings and other structures in the vicinity of the sign. That says something to me.
Let me suggest that I do the drafting technique for the next iteration of having a couple of examples in brackets, and we can reflect on it.
Okay, good.
All right.
I want to keep an eye on time. Or can we finish this sentence not sentence, this section, and that would leave still a few more to go, but I don't think we can get through all of it today. Let's see where we are. Can you think of signs that we would permit or want that are tacked or posted or painted to poles, benches, barrels, buildings, posts?
No. I think that just says, I think that's very clear.
The only thing I wondered if you wanted to add was signs that extend beyond the sides of roof line, signs that protrude over public sidewalks.
We have that on the next page.
Oh, you have that, okay.
Signs situated projecting over a sidewalk.
Okay, fine. Yeah, of course.
How about the house number sign? Is that under discussion?
Well, it's a sign. What are you thinking, Ed? What's the particular issue in mind with them?
Well, just walking up and down the street, you see various applications of the house number. And I noticed on the former Catholic church, there's some modern numbers that are larger than others.
Yeah.
Just an observation.
I just wonder if we can really regulate people's...
I think we should leave it alone.
That's kind of personal.
It's kind of getting into little signs.
And we really don't want to provoke people's anger, as with bunting or Uncle Sam's or whatever. If we, I would leave it alone. But it's a good observation, Ed, that there certainly is a range.
It's free expression, really. Might choose different lettering or something. Okay. Page 5.
Does the exception in the last sentence in this section sufficiently cover all signs in the historic district?
You on 5? Page 5?
I'm on to the last sentence before the heading illumination.
Okay. It's a little typo there. Identity of, probably you meant to say.
Well, where are we now, John?
The last sentence under location, the sentence immediately before the heading.
So on the top of the next page?
Yeah.
I'd like to talk about the concluding sentence, but I think the individual items, the bullets, are okay.
Yeah, I was up to the concluding sentence. So let's talk about that.
I mean, I see that sort of stopped me too a little bit, because I think, I know why you added that, because it was to acknowledge the current signs at the town green and the Phoebe Noyes Griffin that are somewhat exceptions
Right.
meeting there across the street in this witness stones. But there could be others, future date.
Well, it's just.
So we don't want to open it up
would-
to
would-
town green, you can put anything,
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure.
No, I mean, we'd have to approve any
Sure.
sign, but,
What about if we eliminate that sentence? Just don't bring it
I mean,
up.
the whole concluding,
But, yeah.
mhm. So that would prevent putting a sign, well, again, it would be temporary, at the town green saying Midsummer Festival.
and it's also perhaps potentially too restrictive. If the church has I mean, if the Old Lyme Historic Society has a sign out advertising a talk about any number of topics, those topics do not relate to the property on which the sign is located. I guess I was thinking when I wrote it of concert tonight signs, book sale at the library signs.
And also, again, the storyboard signs
Right.
don't relate to the building or the property. I think we maybe should take it out.
Yeah, I guess you could say broadly they relate to the property and that the property's there to.
The property,
It's a stretch. No, it's a stretch. Well, maybe just leave it out. Why not?
leave it out.
And also, if anybody did raise a question, I think just leave it out.
Yeah.
I mean, the library signs, the signs on the greens have already been approved.
Yep,
We don't have to approve any
we don't
more.
have to mention it, no. Because most people won't even think of that, unless they,
What are your druthers? Do you want to keep going?
I need to be out of here by 11.
Deb, are
I need
you?
to go now.
I prefer to have it finish later at another time, but I'll stay if everybody really wants to.
No, I don't think we can reasonably finish everything. Certainly for the bit on illumination, it would be great if Russ were.
I agree.
So why don't we stop here and I'll incorporate these, the language changes I'll put in italics just so that they jump out at you and you can take another look
I
at
think
them.
we're making great progress in our,
It's just slow.
It's slow, but it's so
Why it's
worthwhile
never
to
been done,
discuss it
right?
all and to get, I think it is slow, but it's really worthwhile, and all the work you've done, John, is,
And Ed, do you
Really
have
makes
any
a
last comments? It looks like the consensus here is we wrap up for today. We actually we reviewed old stuff and we went through 4 sections, so that's not bad. We've got
I'll
1,
move we adjourn.
2, 3, 4 sections left. Okay. Well, actually, Ed's not authorized to participate, right? Tammy, is that right? Tammy got authorized. Ed, sorry, you can't make a motion. Next meeting.
Okay.
So motion to adjourn.
so moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.